And welcome. Our top story at this hour is U.S. President Joe Biden visited Ukraine to meet with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. China's top diplomat Wang Yi is due to visit Russia. According to reports, the Chinese top diplomat is likely to visit Moscow today. The Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov earlier confirmed the planned visit by Wang and said that the agenda of the meeting is clear and extensive. He did not rule out a meeting between Wang Yi and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Remember, China regards Russia as an ally and has so far refrained from condemning the war in Ukraine. According to reports citing sources, Wang Yi will discuss Chinese ideas for political settlement of the Ukraine conflict, as well as strengthen bilateral ties with Russia. The latest, China's foreign minister has said that China is deeply worried about the escalation of the Ukraine conflict and the possibility of the situation spiraling out of control. During a speech, the Chinese foreign minister urged certain countries to immediately stop fueling the fire, further asserting on how these nations should stop hyping up today Ukraine and tomorrow Taiwan.
乌克兰危机全面升级已近1年，局势走向备受国际关注。中方对冲突不断加剧，甚至导致失控，深感忧虑。
The visit comes days after U.S. Secretary of State said that Beijing was considering providing lethal support to Moscow, ranging from ammunition to the weapons themselves. Blinken warned Wang Yi of consequences if China provides material support to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. In retaliation, Beijing hit back at Washington, saying it is the United States and not China that is endlessly shipping weapons to the battlefield. China also said that it will publish this week its position on the political settlement of the Ukraine crisis, with Wang Yi saying his country is on the side of dialogue. Since the war in Ukraine began, trade between China and Russia has also increased. Chinese President Xi Jinping has stood by Putin, resisting Western pressure to isolate Russia. And now to a trip that made headlines across the world, a visit that was planned over months, different teams, several agencies, and the final nod from Joe Biden. That is what it took for U.S. President Joe Biden to finally visit Kiev in Ukraine on Monday. The visit was possible only through months of working out arrangements and top-level secrecy. The logistically complex trip, and arguably the most symbolically important of Biden's presidency, came days ahead of the war's one-year anniversary. It also served notice to Russia that the West would continue to stand firmly behind Ukraine. Officials say the president made the final decision on Friday to go ahead with the Ukraine trip. After an Oval Office meeting with key members of his national security team, Biden was taken to Joint Base Andrews outside of Washington and departed at 15 minutes past 4 a.m. on Sunday, aboard an Air Force jet accompanied by a handful of aides. The president flew overnight to the United States Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Then he flew to Rzeszów in Poland. After a 1-hour drive, he arrived in a city along the Ukraine border. Biden then boarded a train and traveled 10 hours to Kiev. Now, according to the White House, only 2 reporters traveled with Biden, and both were required to give up their phones for the duration of the journey until Biden had reached Kiev. Apart from his close team, it was only Russia that was informed about Biden's visit to Kiev. Hours before Biden's arrival in Ukraine, U.S. informed Russia of the president's travel for deconfliction purposes to avoid any kind of inadvertent escalation that could have brought the two nations into direct military conflict. Upon his arrival in Kiev, Biden declared 1 year later, Kiev stands and Ukraine stands. Democracy also stands.
And you said that you didn't know when we'd be able to speak again. That dark night, 1 year ago, the world was literally at the time bracing for the fall of Kyiv. Seems like a lot longer ago than a year, but think back to that year. Perhaps even the end of Ukraine. You know, 1 year later, Kyiv stands, and Ukraine stands. Democracy stands. The Americans stand with you, and the world stands with you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.